Part owner of Saint Vitus and head talent buyer. We're going to be joined shortly by the one and only Mike 9 from Eyehategod. Just one of the greatest bands to come from the United States as far as metal is concerned. Definitely a fucking honor. So TGIF, cheers everybody. We're busting out the good stuff for Mike today, and really excited to fucking talk to him. He's the fucking man. Hope everybody out there is cool, and thanks everybody for who's been donating on the Vitus Kickstarter and all that. It's been a wild time, but we feel really supported, and thanks everybody for doing all that. Cheers to you guys. Let's see if we can get Mike up here. Waiting. Connecting. Mike.
Oh, hey.
There it is.
I'm out here, man.
How the
I'm
fuck?
out here living it.
It's good to fucking see you, dude.
Yeah, you too, man. How's it going? Been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah, I know. It's been a fucking minute. I'm doing all right, man. Just cooling out and trying to stay healthy, safe, and just fucking living here, man. Living in the quarantine life,
Same here, man. Same here.
For real, for real.
Just hoping to go on tour someday again. I don't know.
I know.
That will be.
I know, man. I know. Just today I was thinking back to all the different times that we've either played together or done shows together and everything like that.
Yeah.
It was a good day of just remembering a lot of stuff, man.
Eyehategod loves Saint Vitus, I mean,
yeah.
We were kind of like the house band there, it seemed like, for a year or so. We just kept coming back and playing 2 shows a day, and
yeah, man.
Always the nicest people, the best people, great everything,
Yeah.
I thought you were sober, man.
So yeah, I know you are. That's my way.
Right.
Yeah, man. I mean, I remember there were just so many good shows, either with Cro-Mags or back in the day with like Couch Slut, like just amazing shows.
Yeah, I remember almost all of them. Not some of them are blurry, but
sure.
But it's always a good time there.
For real. So I'm going to just sort of start off the interview with a question, which is basically, I ask everybody, obviously everyone's at home now. We all know that everyone's home. But
yeah.
Do you know where you would be today if you weren't at home? Would you be on tour? What would you be doing?
What is today? I don't even know the date.
Today is May 15th, actually.
May 15th? Well, I think Psycho, we were supposed to do that Psycho smoke out.
Oh yeah.
That would have happened already, though. Apparently that would have happened, I think, April something. But it's rescheduled for October.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's even going to happen. I mean, who knows? But today, I'm sure we'd be on tour somewhere today.
Sure.
The past 3 years, that's like all we've done.
Yeah, you guys hit really, really, really hard, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, great. Obviously, Psycho Las Vegas, incredible, just huge event every year, big time festival. And then they started doing the smoke out, which is just a standalone thing. And a lot of great bands are slated to play. So that sucks. But at the very least, we got you here and we can just kind of chat and communicate to that world,
This is what's going on now. It's like everybody's, doing it this way just to keep in touch, It seems like a good way to, until we go to shows again.
Yeah, just a new paradigm, right? Yeah, there's like, this is the meetup. This is the hangout. So,
yeah,
just kind of start to take it back down memory lane a little bit, so we can kind of just vibe a little bit.
Okay.
On kind of early Mike 9 stuff. So, Mike, one thing that I like to start off kind of early on in people's lives, and when they really started to find music. Can you talk about like what were the earliest things that kind of drew you into kind of music, heavy music, things of that nature?
I had 2 older brothers, so that's usually a lot of people's way how it happens, So I had 2 older brothers, and one of my brothers was really into Alice Cooper and The Who and Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. I found out I listened to Sabbath when I was like 9 years old, so from my brother. And I loved the album so much I would like play with it like it was a part of my toys, you know.
Oh,
So I mean, Alice Cooper's still one of my favorites. Obviously, all those bands, but I guess from there on, I went to Kiss. You know, I'm of that age where every single boy and girl, possibly as well, hopefully, but every single person was into Kiss. You know, it was that age. You know,
you joined the army.
I did join. I was a member of the Kiss Army. They didn't send me shit though. I feel ripped off by Gene Simmons, but he also not that long ago told the entire band to fuck off. Gene Simmons told us that, but at a festival, he kind of just looked at us, and we were kind of lurking around the backstage, like, "Wow, there's Gene Simmons," you know, and he just made a swift movement and said, "Fuck off." So that's the story. But yeah. So yeah, from Kiss to like the Sex Pistols, the Clash, the Ramones, and then it just went from there, you know, just like listen to anything, no matter what the people want to call it, you know.
Yeah.
What they call it some certain genre of music, but it's just, I'll just get into anything that was interesting or usually extreme or heavy, you know.
So with when you were talking about the Clash and the Ramones and stuff, what was your kind of first introductions to punk rock, and was that really kind of the earliest sort of like music that started pulling you into like going to more underground shows and things of that nature?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I guess when I was into Kiss, I was so young that I couldn't go to a show. I didn't go to see Kiss back in that day because it was so early, but I was so young. But I would buy these magazines with Kiss in them, and there would be this little article somewhere, like this new craze from Britain or whatever. And it was like, you know, those bands that I mentioned, just, you know, also New York, you know, obviously Ramones and Talking Heads and all these bands. So I just thought that looked interesting too and got into that. And that in turn developed into like hardcore, you know, hardcore punk, as I would rather call it. And then by the time I was old enough to sneak out of the house and go to my own shows, that's where I went, was straight to those underground local hardcore punk shows, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I really, I remember actually one of the first times I think I ever met you, we DJ'd together at the Charleston in Brooklyn.
Right. Yeah.
And like at the beginning I was kind of playing, you know, it was kind of, I think it was an after show for one of the shows that you had played, maybe at Club Europa. So this is going back like 12 years now. And
I think I played with Brutal Truth and maybe Black Anvil.
Yeah. It was and it was like the
it was Europa, too. Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole show like kind of showed up to Charleston to just chill, and I was DJing, and I was playing like some metal stuff here and there, and like I was trying to keep it kind of eclectic. And then I remember, I think I played a Blitz song, and you really like perked up, and then for the rest of the night we just kind of played punk from like Country Peni to like all this other shit, and I was like, wow, Mike really is like on this fucking level right now. And I thought that was really
I remember that. I had my iPod there, or my iPhone or whatever, and it was like a mix of like punk and then Motorhead and Venom, you know? So it was like, which are two punk bands to me, if you ask me. Those bands are, with the attitude of those bands, you know.
If you were into punk, you were like liking Motorhead and Venom was like, those are the metal bands that were fine for you to like.
Cool as fuck. Yeah, cool as fuck. I bought Welcome to Hell like when it came out. And I had a lot of friends who are like, man, this is like bullshit. You know, they got long hair. That was back when like long hairs didn't go to shows and vice versa, you know. This is the 80s, man, early 80s. So I picked up Welcome to Hell, and it was just like blew me away. I'm like, and it was just like blew me away. I'm like, this is as punk as anything out there right now, maybe even punker, because they didn't give a fuck about, they're singing about Satan and shit, which wasn't like, you know, it wasn't cool or anything, but yeah, still to this day one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, pretty amazing. So one thing that I'm always fascinated about by like Eyehategod and just you guys in general is, you know, I'm from New York and Long Island specifically. So what was, when you were first started going to shows, what was the scene like in New Orleans? Because it just from things I've read, things you've said, pretty wild, pretty free. If you could give us a little picture of what it was like being teenage Mike going to shows and shit.
Well, back in the early '80s, I mean, it was super small. You know, I mean, it was super small. I mean, there was probably 100 punks in the city. You know, and we were like the new kids, though, like the other generation, like the older punks that had got into it right when it came out. You know, they were like still lingering around a little bit, but it was like us kids kind of took over the scene and started just making our own bands, and everybody had a band, and that was great. But then as it evolved, I guess later on, as we got, I Hate God was a concept in like 1985.
Oh wow!
That was like 85, 86. Me and Jimmy, there was a local New Orleans hardcore band called Shell Shock that Jimmy played drums in, and we were on tour. I was like their roadie, mascot, or whatever you want to call it. And me and Jimmy, just that whole tour, talked about doing a band that would be heavy like Sabbath, but extreme and noisy and you know, more hardcore at the same time. So that was like the beginnings of Eyehategod.
Yeah, just late nights, just talking with your friend, like, what if we did this and then that? And
we wanted to do something that no one had. I mean, there was bands out there doing it, you know, like there's a band from Boston called Kill Slug, and I guess the Melvins were around back then, and there was some bands doing it, but we wanted to do something totally different, you know. And, and it was like the stuff we listened to also. I mean, we were big into Saint Vitus, obviously, the band, Confessor, Trouble, Witchfinder General, all these bands. But at the same time, I listened to hardcore and pretty much anything else, you know.
Sure.
But,
so you were, in the mid '80s, you were kind of hanging out, local kind of hardcore scene, Shell Shock, and then the idea was already kind of kicking around. When did it start becoming like, yo, motherfuckers, let's do this. Like, let's fucking get together and like try and make this concept a reality.
Well, like probably like late '87 or '88, I would guess that Jimmy. I was in a band called Crawl Space, which was like a thrash metal band, kind of voivodish a little bit, but like kind of. They actually turned into a band called Stress Ball, who put out an album back in the '90s, I think. But I was in that band, and Jimmy was doing this thing. He was in, I don't even know what band he was in at the time. I guess Shell Shock was just breaking up. So he was just jamming with some other people and just playing this really slow, like, we had heard the Melvins by that point, and we were like, okay, this is what we're doing now. And he was doing it. There was another singer before me. I wasn't even the singer in the beginning.
There was a guy, and I didn't remember, but the other singer, did that person actually come up with the name Eyehategod with the EYE?
Yeah. That was all his concept. He had a bunch of strange ideas, this guy. But he only sang at 2 rehearsals, apparently. Jimmy used to have rehearsal tapes of that somewhere, so I don't know where they're at.
That's crazy.
I'd like to hear that. But it was like, there was different, it was like kind of revolving door for members then. It was kind of just like his side band just doing it, you know? But then like after the guy like kind of freaked out one time and had a little mental episode, his name was Chris, the guy who thought of the name, he quit. And I was like, okay, Jimmy, I'm coming in this band right now. This is going to be our band right now, you know? Yeah. So.
And that's the moment. You seize the moment, and like now we have what's come to know as Eyehategod.
Well, we say too. Back then it was we kind of called it a joke in the fact that not so much like a silly joke, but we were just out to commit terrorism on the local thrash scene and just destroy everything, you know. So we figured opening up for like Exhorder, playing slow as we possibly could, and we got the right reaction. People threw stuff at us, they hated us, so we loved it at the time. But it gradually got more and more serious, you know. So we got reviews in magazines, and for even demo tapes, like reviews in Maximum Rock and Roll, and we ended up just taking it as far as we possibly can. And it's been 32 years right now.
That's so crazy, because I was talking. I had one of these with another Mike from Yob, and he was talking about you know, Doom and earlier, like just kind of earlier, and how there was just so few people who were interested in playing slower. You know, I mentioned like Stefan from Winter, and like just anyone who was playing slower, I feel like at that time was like, what the fuck is this? Why isn't this like faster? Right?
Yeah.
So immediately that's like, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, we felt the brunt of that, you know. I mean, not to, we were also very like, we like to provoke people as well on stage by, you know, cursing out the crowd and throwing shit at them, you know, and breaking bottles and junk like that. That was our early days, you know. But it got us attention, you know, and it just slowly people caught on, you know. It was weird that we've done all the things we've done now and put out all these records and toured Russia and South America and Japan and all this shit, man. It's wild.
I feel like, you know, when I got to the band, really, it was a lot, you know, honestly, it was Phil Anselmo, like, repping your gear. And I was kind of like, wow, what's this, you know? And it was cool because he always put on for, you know, Crowbar and Eyehategod and that kind of scene connection that you guys had. And, you know, at that point, I'm from Long Island, man. Like, country music doesn't really fucking exist for me. Southern music, not really something. And I just kind of remember this overwhelming, like, swagger that you guys had in the riffs. And I just was like, man, this hits different. This swagger, this movement that I'm like, it's heavy as fuck. And it's, like, brutal. But it had, like, this swagger.
I think a lot of that comes from living in New Orleans, you know? I mean, I know there's other bands that can do it, obviously, but we got that from just, if you live in New Orleans, you hear all kinds of music constantly. Just like in New York, you hear music from bodegas and or hip hop on the street. We would hear jazz and blues and whatever just blaring all the time. And the city kind of has a groove to it. New Orleans does. So that kind of just, along with the fucking oppressive heat down there, just kind of made sense to play slow and with a groove, you know, just like something different. We're a big fan of the Meters, the band The Meters from New Orleans. And some of that like in the pocket, like groove is
for people listening out there, The Meters are kind of like a funk band.
They're a funk band, yeah.
So
but there's a lot of bands like that we like and that are influences on Eyehategod. I mean, people wouldn't probably expect that. I tell people my influences, and it seems like they're not, they don't get it. But it's all just good music, you know. Everything from like SPK and Throbbing Gristle, like industrial noise stuff, to like John Lee Hooker, you know, and everything in between, you know.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that one of the things I always felt was just so amazing was like the consistency in Jimmy's feedback. You hear the woo, and I'm like, that's Eyehategod. It's not even a chord, it's not a note, it's nothing.
Right.
The fucking feedback. And I'm like, it really does have that, it brings a certain characteristic that I think is just unmistakable. I feel like that's the extremity side, the nastiness, the fucking, you know, to the sound. But that's really cool as far as that. You know, I've heard a lot of New York hardcore, you know, musicians, Hoya Rock from Madball and, you know, Vinny Stigma and stuff. Those guys talking a lot about hip hop and Walter Schreifels and stuff like that.
Yeah. You can hear it in the beat of some of that stuff, you know. But I mean, we're hip hop. We love hip hop too. At least I do. Me and Gary and Aaron love hip hop. Jimmy's a country music guy, you know. He likes his country music, which I like a lot of the old like outlaw stuff, you know. David Allan Coe's okay, Merle Haggard, some of the older, but any of the newer stuff, it's really hard for me to get into it. But that's Jimmy's influence on the band, which also has that southern twang and groove to it, you know, some of that country stuff, you know.
Sure.
So I don't knock it at all. It's just not really my cup of tea.
But once you kind of filter it through the Eyehategod kind of prism, it's something else. And that's what we love. And I think it's important to kind of touch on that a little bit. Like, hey.
True. Yeah.
So one of the things that, just going back to kind of like the idea that you guys were like this really like kind of like fuck you kind of thing. Like remember the thoughts of like going to see Eyehategod was like, dude, these dudes are fucking nuts. Who knows if they're gonna make a fucking show? You know what I mean? But you're like, I hope that like it all like works this time or not.
Well, there's been moments when it's fallen apart many times. People have not shown up for gigs. We've canceled at the last minute. I mean, all the chaos is real. It's real. It's not put on. I mean, we try to get our shit together.
And that's kind of considering what you write about and who you are, like yourself, and the lyrics and the kind of the tone of everything like that. I think it just comes across. There's a realness to it that just comes across. Like there's no airs. What was it like, you know, at different eras of the band? You know, like it feels like, you know, there were eras when it dropped on and dropped off. Was Eyehategod always kind of in your mind, even when times where it felt like a wreck and like, hey, I don't know if I'm coming back to this? Or was it always kind of like this thing that like, we're going to find our way back to it?
It was always the latter that you just said. There's been many problems with this band, you know, as far as record labels or drugs, obviously, that's a fact people know about, or alcohol, or just whatever. But we've always had the band in the back of our minds that it's gonna come back no matter what. You know? I mean, we've been together for 30 years, 32 years, but there was one time, I think 1999, that we took a break for kind of like a year, and it was kind of like everybody kind of needed to just clear their heads, and especially me, I think, at the time. And but it all came back together within 8 months. You know, I like to say it's like a bacteria. You know, it just doesn't like go away. But we love it. You know, we love it for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something that kind of has that natural pull that you guys just come back to, you know, why not? I mean, honestly, us as fans, you know, we're always excited to, you know, see you guys and obviously hear new material, and you know, the fact that you guys are putting out records again and doing all that stuff is just great for us as well.
Yeah, man, it's been great, man.
For sure. So one of the things that, you know, just kind of, you know, as a band that I think almost thrives off of like the chaos of life. What are some of like your lyrical influences, and what have you really pulled? Because I have the book that you put out, Cancer as a Social Activity.
Yes, that's it.
And I got it actually at Housecore Fest when we played, and I just moved, but I was like looking for it today, but it's somewhere in here.
Right.
But I read that book, and I love like the different verse, and like kind of you have like a real way of kind of like putting just these little vignettes of like moments of really like fucked up moments together that I think is really nice. Can you talk about how you kind of come to that place?
I mean, I really don't know. It's all from different influences, and life in general, you know, is a big influence. Just, you know, writing down something you're thinking. But I mean, as far as other writers, there's always Charles Bukowski, William Burroughs, William Volman, another writer, Kurt Vonnegut. There's so many writers out there. Nick Cave, Dark Crash is a big influence on my writing, you know, for the Germs.
Yeah.
I personally, and I know everybody pretty much thinks the same, that we just want to take things and real things and put them out there. You know, we don't want to have any fakeness about what we do. So the lyrics come out that way too. That's just the way I write. I mean, that's just part of me being in the band, you know, is those lyrics. And it's all just reality stuff. A lot of it's super abstract and like throws people, and it throws me sometimes even, just because some of it's super cryptic and makes no sense. But that's part of life too, I think, you know, confusion and contradiction. I just did a spoken word thing the other night. I don't know if you happen to see it on Cult Nation.
Yeah.
If people want to check that out, it's on Cult Nation on YouTube.
Great website.
But I'm still doing that stuff, like the spoken word thing, and I'm planning on writing more books and reprinting this book, the one you mentioned, Cancer Social Activity. I want to reprint that, get it back out. Especially right now when the band can't be a band, so because we're, you know,
Yeah.
quarantined, you know. So I'm gonna start doing more stuff in that way.
In that realm. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I remember seeing some performances that you did with like Bruce Lamont and other folks
Yeah.
like that as well. Can you talk about kind of collaborating with Bruce and what that kind of was like for you to kind of, I feel like when you think about Eyehategod, it's like, what is it? Is it like amps are louder than, I forget what?
Amps speak louder than words.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so, but to have and to hear everything that you were saying so clearly and like powerfully, I thought was a really cool way to flip it. How was that collaboration with Bruce?
Bruce is a character, definitely. But we got the whole band together because it was me, Bruce, and Scott Kelly from Neurosis. We're talking to each other all separately, really. Like, I wanted to do a project with Bruce. Me and Bruce actually did some noise shows down in like noise spoken word type things down at South by Southwest one year. And then I was also talking about doing a collaboration with Scott, something totally different. And then we all three realized and Bruce was going to do something with Scott, which he did, which is that Cortez the Killer live in Chicago thing. So they were hooked up. We just decided to let's all do this something together. And that's when Sanford Parker came in as well and kind of filled in the back end with the drums and stuff. And it was originally just going to be like 4 different sets, like Bruce would do his thing, whoever was first. Then I would do my reading with them backing me. And then Scott would do his acoustic set. And at the end, we wrote like 3 songs that we collaborated on that were just going to be heavy, like just noisy, whatever they came out as, I mean, obviously there's a drum machine, so they have that sound to them, but it just came out more than we even imagined, better than we imagined. So we did 2 albums and a 7-inch with that thing, that project, Corrections House.
Corrections House is great.
Yeah.
We had you guys at Saint Vitus a couple of times.
First show I think ever was at Saint Vitus.
That's right. And I remember just seeing it also kind of evolve from being these sort of felt like Sanford kind of holding together these different like moments.
Yeah.
Being more of a cohesive group, which was really cool to see you guys all come together and kind of bring out that throbbing gristle, that noise influence.
There's some Skinny Puppy in there a little bit, some stuff like that. But yeah, we just wanted to be like all encompassing, like whatever, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, just stuff that we like. I mean, that's what Eyehategod was too. It was just a little bit of everything that we liked and listened to. And we're like, well, let's do a band like that, So
sure,
that's how it always comes about. That's how it should come about.
Yeah, and it's just a wild collaboration. I was super psyched on Corrections House and everything that sort of happened. I wanted to kind of touch a little bit on that because obviously I think that one of the things that I've always loved about you, Mike, is that you've always had all these different influences. You're not afraid to go any which way, which brings me to, you besides Eyehategod, you've done Corrections House and then Outlaw Order as well.
Outlaw Order, yeah.
How did that kind of project come about? And was it, I think with Eyehategod, you're kind of, Jimmy's always done other things with Down, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And everyone's always had things, so it's cool that you guys always come back to it. But I'd like to know about what's in between. How did Outlaw Order kind of come to happen?
Well, there's Outlaw Order, and I did another band I'll talk about in a minute, Arson Anthem. Was a really cool project. But Outlaw Order basically came about because Jimmy was on tour with other bands. He was in Corrosion of Conformity for a little bit. I'm not sure what year that was.
Everyone's
2000 something. Jimmy, yeah, Jimmy played drums in Corrosion of Conformity, and which was cool. And we don't ever knock anybody's other bands. We all have side bands and other bands, so that's fine. But it just happened to be that we were bored as hell, and we were just like, Jimmy was on tour with one of his bands. It was either Superjoint or Corrosion or Down. I don't even know, but. So we were just like sitting around like, let's just go jam at the practice room. And it just happened to be, it was supposed to be like a hardcore band. That's what the beginning idea was, to make it like more of like a hardcore punk band than Eyehategod. but with Brian playing guitar, me singing, Joey playing drums, Gary on bass, it turned out that the riffs just came out, you know, the way they did. I mean, there are lead guitar parts in Outlaw Order, which Eyehategod doesn't really have leads at all. Yeah. Very few, maybe one, something. But then, yeah, that's how Outlaw Order came about. And it actually, we wrote a bunch of songs with that and just thought it sounded cool enough to put out a record. You know, we put out a 7-inch and an album. And
yeah, it's great. I fucking love that shit. I thought it was awesome. And I just kind of like how that whole New Orleans scene and stuff like that, it is like a big family. And
yeah, for sure.
There's just like, okay, what are all of these people up to? Like the entire thing, you know?
Right.
Oh, Outlaw over here. Oh, you know, Phil's doing this thing. Oh, you know, Homeboy's over here doing stuff. And there's just so much great music that comes out of all of it, you know? So that's pretty sweet. So kind of in between Eyehategod stuff, that is kind of what's been happening. And so is that how Arson Anthem kind of came about too?
Arson Anthem kind of came about the same way, but it was after Katrina, Hurricane Katrina, which destroyed our city, you know. That was 2005, the end of 2005. I got locked up and went to jail for a while. But when I got out, actually Phil bailed me out, which was, well, you know, the percentage of the thing and all that, but which was super cool. I still thank him for that. But so after that, I went to go live on his property, which is on the North Shore of New Orleans. There's a giant lake called Lake Pontchartrain, and he lived on the other side of that. So I went over there kind of to stay out of trouble, and I was on probation and all this, so it was a good place to be. Phil offered, you know, for me to let me stay there. I ended up staying there 10 years, by the way. But so we just started going. You know, I lost everything in Katrina. I lost all my records, all my books, cassettes, videos, everything. So, you know, just sitting around Phil's apartment, his house, I mean, listening to all these old things that I wanted to hear because I'd been locked up, you know, and just thinking, and me and him talking, like, let's do a hardcore band, you know, let's do a hardcore punk band. And that's what happened with that. And ended up getting Shelton, Hank 3 on drums, of all things. And that's it. I mean, we pretty much, it was mainly a studio band, you know. I mean, we recorded 2 different recordings, like an EP and then a full-length album. And we did a bunch of shows, but nothing in, like, we never played New York. We never played Chicago. We never played LA. We did, like, some weird small cities like Nashville and Fayetteville, Arkansas. I don't know why, but that's how they wanted to do it. So I just went with the flow.
Sure.
But I don't think that band showed its potential either. I think we had a lot more that we could have done with Arson Anthem.
I agree. I remember that video you guys put out with all like circle pits and all that shit, and I was just like, dude, this is fucking sick. And then it didn't really come up to New York.
No. Yeah, I know. I wanted to play everywhere, you know. It just kind of like everybody started drifting off. I had Eyehategod stuff to do. Shelton kind of went off in his own world where he's still at, apparently. Mm-hmm. And Phil had things to do, you know, like I think they got down back together or sometime around there. I'm not sure. Yeah, that was after Katrina.
Sure.
Yeah, so that became just like another project and just one of those things that I just want to somehow put a finishing, if it's going to end, like do a finishing touch with it, you know, but I don't know if there'll ever be any shows or anything, but hopefully you never know. You never know what could happen. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Especially I feel like in a time like this, everybody's sort of talking to one another. Everyone's kind of home and
yeah,
connections are happening right now. I feel like, you know,
it's going to be interesting to see like what music comes out of all this and what bands break up or what bands form new bands. And it's going to be pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that actually a lot because, you know, what we're all kind of going through, right? Worldwide, this thing is happening, right? And
yeah.
I don't know, like, you know, obviously up in New York City, we had 9/11. That was like a huge impactful moment. But,
yeah.
And then you guys had Hurricane Katrina down in New Orleans. A lot of other places have never touched a thing that even resembles like a disaster, like a true disaster, right? And so
True. Yeah.
you've been kind of in and out of disaster times, of times, right?
Right.
What, you know, obviously Phil lending that helping hand, helping you out, and then you started getting this sort of momentum to be creative again. How are you
Yes.
feeling now, and how do you feel like? Are you feeling like a new energy that hopefully can come out of this sort of situation?
I am, honestly. I think that I feel more creative than I ever have right now. I'm writing a lot every day, still write. Just trying to, like I said before, just doing the spoken word thing, trying to get my book back in print and things like that. But I do feel like something's gonna happen. Like, I mean, not an event, but as far as music goes, there's gonna be some crazy bands coming out, some new music that people are gonna just be like, "Wow, that's different," or you know, something like that. But who knows, man? It's
Yeah,
gonna be
I think adversity can sometimes create those moments that can that can lead to something new, right? You like maybe you don't have the same tools that you have in normal times, or you
yeah,
have certain things that you're accustomed to, or whatever. But then it creates a set of problems that becomes a creative challenge, and then you can kind of create something else. So we hope that
yeah.
you know everyone's kind of applying that same energy, and I sure am, at least towards you know Vitus and my own musical pursuits, but
Right, for sure.
and how to kind of you know move all that stuff forward. I want to kind of you know just continuing to kind of touch on all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
What have you been kind of listening to during this time that's been something that's really perked you up, or anything that you've come across that you're like, oh man, this is really cool. What's lighting your brain on fire right now?
Man, as far as new stuff, there's not so much.
It could be anything, music, movies, anything that you're just like, hey, this right now.
Well, I finally watched Narcos, which is like my favorite shit. So I guess I'm years behind on that thing, but so I watched that. But I don't know. I still listen to like New York Dolls and the Stooges and Poison Idea, man. You know, like my tastes are pretty old tastes as far as that goes. There's definitely new bands that come out that I want to that I like. You know, it's just I don't know. That's just I mean that question's hard because it just comes and goes. Like some days there's like nothing. Other days I discover all these new bands on Spotify or YouTube or something, and or just researching bands and finding new shit from that. You know.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to kind of go back to the things that make you feel good or are familiar too. So if you go back to a certain record, that's you know that's totally good. It is sort of that way. Sometimes I just put on music that I know will make me feel a certain way because I want to feel that certain way at that moment. You know what I mean? And I don't want anything to disturb that.
Well, like I mean, like Dead Boys, one of my favorite bands. Laughing Hyenas.
Oh, dude, Laughing Hyenas
criminally
underrated.
Totally underrated, I think. Yeah, they just re-released all that stuff on Third Man Records, but yeah, we got to tour with Negative Approach. You know, like 3 different times, I believe we've toured with them. So I just, you know, bombarded John Brannon with Laughing Hyenas questions like the whole time, you know, and that's just really one of my old favorite bands. But like the Stooges and like MC5, and there's so many bands that are all really just older bands. But I'd still on like newer bands like Institute. There's a band called Institute. There's a band. Have you ever heard of Dark Thoughts?
Oh yeah, from Philadelphia. Great fucking band.
They're great. They're really great, man. Those guys. There's a lot of stuff like that that I can't think of the names just off the top of my head, but just newer good stuff, you know.
That's great. That's great for sure, and that's like, you know, all fine. So, you know, it's good. It's like a little bit of new and stuff. And we're just trying to get a feeling of where you're at. But one of the things that I also wanted to touch on too, and I just remembered too, since we're back. But one of my friends mentioned this to me today actually, and it was that you lived. So you lived 10 years in New Orleans off Phil's house after Katrina, and that was a tragic kind of moment, and you were coming back from that. But before
Sure,
that, you lived in Brooklyn in the 90s, right?
Yeah, I lived in Brooklyn for like 3 years, from like 93 to probably the end of 93 to the end of 96, I think, something like that.
What brought you out to New York? What was the
A girl, you know?
Ah,
I mean,
classic.
I used to date Alicia from the band 13, old New York, slow crust band, you know, very slow. They used to always do shows with Grief, you know, but I mean, I was like writing her back and forth because at that time, back in like 93, there was Eyehategod, Buzz Oven, Cavity in Florida, Grief in Boston, and 13 in New York. And there was a few scattered other bands that sounded like that, but we were like part of that small group of early bands playing this slow ass, you know, noisy stuff, you know?
For sure.
So I don't know. Me and Alicia started writing each other, and the next thing you know, I came up to New York to visit, and ended up staying 3 years. So
wow, that's
when I worked for Metal Maniacs magazine as well on Park Avenue. I worked like in this major fucking office building on Park Avenue for a big magazine, you know, like writing. So that was really cool too, you know.
Oh shit! So that's kind of what brought you here, and that's how you sort of stayed and stuff. So
yeah.
How did you feel about New York in the 90s and stuff? I think around that time I was probably like wearing like bondage pants and hanging out in St. Marcus and just going to my first shows, and you were probably just cruising by, and you know, we didn't know.
Yeah, I had already been in it for a while, you know, like, but I loved it, man. I love New York. I think New York's fantastic, man. If I could afford to live there, I would, you know, if I could afford it. But it's a great place, man. I just, the energy of New York, you know, it's just always, there's something going on, you know. I mean, it was also bad for me in a way because of the substance abuse situation I found myself in. But, you know, that's over now. So, but I just love the energy in New York and just everything about it. Brooklyn too is just great, man.
It's a hard and fast town, but that city is very it's very addicting, and I feel like Eyehategod in New York is a thing to behold. You know, everything from the Rocks Off Boat show,
right?
It went down like kind of in infamy to like
you know that show, man.
That
show was crazy.
That show was fucking nuts.
But New York's always been really good to us. I think places like New York and like Berlin, Germany, or like another place. It's that gritty like city vibe that somehow those people seem to gravitate to a band like us, you know. And that's great, man.
Yeah, I think that there's a certain tension in city life that
for sure. Yeah.
I just when I listen to Eyehategod and I listen to your vocals and I hear some of the noise and the ripping nature of it, I'm just like, yeah, this doesn't come from here, but this is built for us. Like, I'm like, yeah, I feel like this song a decent amount of times in my fucking life.
Sure. Yeah, I get it, man. I feel like that about other bands too, you know, that make me feel that way, feel a certain way. That's why we love bands, you know. But New York's always been really good to us. Cleveland, Ohio is another place that loves us, you know, because it's such a like industrial, gritty city, you know. And I don't know, there's a lot of different places, but
for sure,
New York's fantastic, man.
Yeah, that's fucking wild. Just that, you know, I totally didn't sort of know it. I'm like, oh wow, you know, Mike sort of experienced more than I even have, like this sort of like 90s New York that's something kind of that we hold in common that I had no idea until this morning. So shout out to my boy Nick MD for pointing that out to me. I was like, oh shit,
right?
I had no fucking
we were. Eyehategod, I was thinking the other day, Eyehategod's played CBGB's like maybe at least 8 times, maybe more. We played ABC No Rio back in the 90s. We did all those shows, but I don't know, just I saw so many bands at CBGB's and just living there, it's just super exciting, you know.
For sure, for sure. So, one of the things that also, I feel like the extremity in I Hate God, there's a lot of swagger to it, but a lot of it is also your voice. How did you kind of like come to that style? Because when I listen to you sing, first of all, no cap, I love your voice. I love how you sing, and it kind of reminds me
Thank you.
a lot of the '90s hardcore singers that I really like Rob Fish from 108, stuff like that. It's a little higher register. It's not
Right.
like a guttural thing, and it has a little bit more of a ripping quality to it. And is that something that just came out, or did you just were like, oh, I have these down tuned guitars, I want to sit over here, or just like, okay, this is what happens.
It's just what happened. I mean, I Hate God was, I mean, I've been in bands since I was 14 years old, 15. My first band was called Teenage Waste. It was just a super like simple like hardcore band. We were like Minor Threat fans, and
Yeah.
Black Flag. Obviously, Black Flag plays a big part in I Hate God too, but
Sure.
but yeah, Teenage Waste. So in like 1982, I was in a band doing gigs, sneaking out twice a week from my house, lying to my brother, who was my guardian at the time, lying to him and sneaking out, and then ended up just running away and not coming back home, playing gigs at 15, in bars, with a punk band. And then the next band I had was called Suffocation by Filth. And we were more like, it was more in the mid 80s when the crossover thing had happened. And it was more, we used to do a Sodom cover, a Discharge cover, and a Bad Brains cover. That's what that band was all about.
Nice. I dig that.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So my voice came from all that, just screaming when I was younger up until now,
And trying a lot of different things. In 1982, I was -1. So,
right.
Give everybody the idea of
I've been around. I've been around a little bit.
Yeah. For me, I was so enamored with all these records, and I like studied that shit. And in my mind, I was like, I can't kind of do this like low, definitely early stuff. But I'm like, these cats, they kind of sing in this different way. And for me, that was honestly a reason that I could kind of get into I Hate God. Pantera is the biggest band just around. But I was into...
In the 90s, they were the biggest metal band, period.
Yeah.
There was no other band in the 90s,
No. And so, but I was into like Integrity and Bloodlet and like all these 90s.
We used to play with Bloodlet and Integrity. Used to do shows with them.
Exactly. And I felt like it was like, here's this move that just moves this a little bit over. It's a different swagger and vibe of the vocals and everything else. And also just, honestly, the emotive quality and the pain came through. And I was just like,
that's good.
Motherfuckers, I'm with that. So that was...
And that was not any forced, there was nothing forced about it or any planned thing. It just... We basically, I mean, part of our whole concept was that we don't give a fuck about anything.
Sure.
So like the feedback and all that, and just the noise and the vocals and the guitar sounds and all, it was all just what we plugged in, and I got on a mic, and that's what it sounded like,
Yeah, and
nothing planned or a decision to made. Of course I wasn't going to sing like, like Cannibal Corpse or some, one of those. I wasn't going to do the guttural thing. It's just not my style,
Sure.
And coming from hardcore punk, of course, that's how it ended up.
Yeah, I think that it really just comes through. One thing I think about just I Hate God too, it's like from the artwork to everything, it feels like this is like a moment. And it's just like, here's this moment, and this is the only thing that we can be in this moment. There's nothing else.
Yeah, well, because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you know, every morning you wake up, you have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, so you need to do things and do them the way you want to do them before your life's over. That's why this thing happening right now is insane, because it's just out of the blue. I mean, nobody predicted this was going to happen. I mean, you read about it, you see a movie about a pandemic, but like this, and now we're living in it. It's fucking crazy, man. it's separating a lot of people too, like, and that have different ideas about this. So that's another thing.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more too. I feel like in a lot of ways, it gives you that, it gives everyone, like worldwide, you've had, I think, various moments like this. And I feel like in your lyrics, everything you talk about, you with these just raw, these raw moments that I really gravitate towards, man. Like, I just feel like these raw moments that I'm like,
Thanks, man.
you could just see these things, and I'm like, this dude is just giving me this right now. But the whole world is going through the same thing at the same time, and it's a really weird existential thing. You're like, fuck, man. Like, I better get living because who knows what the fuck's gonna happen, right?
True. I get people writing me all the time, or telling me in person that like our music helped them from like, because they could relate to the pain of our music. Like, help them, you know, not kill themselves, or help them like stop doing drugs, or just because they could feel the pain and relate to it. I guess that's a good thing, you know. That
I think you could just see it in real time, man. And I see it, you know, obviously with your band and many other bands, but you know, at Vitus, and I just see what a great show can do for someone, you know.
Sure, yeah.
And you know, I just, obviously we all hope that we can get back to it and stuff like that. But in these times, you know, we still have those records and we can play them loud in our fucking houses.
Yeah.
And
I've been thinking about live shows. Like, I wonder what it's going to be like. Is it just going to be fucking insane? Or are people going to be like, nobody can show up because everybody's broke? Or you know, I don't know what it's going to, it's another uncertain, unpredictable thing about live music, you know, whenever it does happen.
Definitely. And I think that, you know, as far as, you know, Saint Vitus, myself, and where I participate in all of that, it is really unpredictable. We really don't know, but I think that there's something to say is that we will get through this, and it will end at a certain point, or it will get better at a certain point.
I'm confident that it will end. Yes, of course. You have to be. I mean, we're a really negative band. I mean, we come off as like this negative, not necessarily in our attitudes, but just the imagery and the lyrics and the sound, of course. But we're all like really funny, like goofy people, you know? And yeah, so we have some positivity coming from Eyehategod, if you believe, if that makes sense to anyone. But we're a very positive band, actually.
I think, honestly, I tell people this shit all the fucking time, but I'm like, yo, man, give me a fucking sludgy band from the South with a good, they'll have the best vibe. I feel like, you know, every time you guys have rolled through to Vitus and the community and the vibe that you bring out, there's certain bands that I think they're there with an intention, and they're there to share this moment, but like they don't live the moment every 24 hours of the day.
Yeah, well,
And I'm like, I cannot tell you how many times I'm like, you know, we've flown you in for a gig, and fucking Jimmy is just like, yeah, just get me this like amp and like whatever stuff, and I'll just and it's all in your hands, and it's in your voice and in what you guys do, and it's just the best day at the office. So I'm happy that what happens in the songs doesn't happen off stage too.
Well, I mean, some of it has happened, you know, some of the lyrics and stuff are based on things that have happened in real life, but
sure. I'm talking about
luckily, and yeah, right. And I mean, hopefully those things won't happen again, you know, but yeah, I mean, like our live shows are just, you know, we want everybody to have a great time. There's just like as negative of a band as we seem, we just want to have fun. We want people to have fun and have a drink.
I think that's the thing that makes it right, though, is like it's the catharsis off of all the negative moments. It's the catharsis of that stuff, and we're putting it all out there, and then we're letting it go to the head, you know. And honestly, your band to me does it as good as anyone I've seen, and so you know, obviously we've been thankful to have that.
Yeah, thanks.
And all over the world.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Absolutely, for sure. So we got probably like a couple of minutes left before we got to, you know, kind of wrap things up. So obviously, you know, things are kind of up in the air right now or whatever. But if you could kind of give us an idea of what would you like, or what would be good to happen for Eyehategod in the coming times? Would it be writing some more music, or what are you hoping to kind of accomplish in a 2020 that's really fucking weird?
It's raining in the window in here. Just anyway. Well, we have a new album that's recorded except for the vocals. It's recorded. It's been recorded for some time now. And this right now was this was the time that we were going to take this time off, actually, for me to do the vocals. But now the studios are closed for the most part. I'm trying to find a place right now to do these vocals. And it's looking like I found a place. But yeah, that's why this time was like, we're off work. We're not touring, but we were supposed to take this time off. And this new Eyehategod record, yeah, I just need to nail these vocals down. Obviously, we need to mix it and get artwork. So it's a ways off for people listening that think it's coming out like next week or nothing. It's not.
Yeah. This is
13 years last time to put out an album. So maybe, who knows, it might be another 10 years, but no, it's going to be hopefully next year. Hopefully next year we'll have this thing done and out. That's
great, man. But that's kind of a great situation, is to have all of this great music waiting for you for when you can get into the studio. I'm sure you're champing at the bit, like ready to fucking get
I want to get it done. I want to get this thing. Yeah. It's going to be, it's an Eyehategod album, you know, I mean, we'll see how it sounds with the vocals, but of course it's going to be Eyehategod, you know. People go, what is it going to sound like? I'm like, Eyehategod. I mean, what else? We don't experiment a lot. Sometimes a little, but not a lot. You know, we're kind of like the Ramones or AC/DC. We put out Eyehategod records, you know. That's the records we do.
But at the same time, it's like those records are Eyehategod records because they're, you guys have just taken many years and many times to distill this sound over time very lovingly, and you created that thing, and that's fucking
it's what we are. It's what we are as people too. I mean, this band is, for being in a band this long, one single band, it's defined us, you know. I mean, it's what we are. People either love it or hate it, you know. People, which I like that polarizing effect our band has, you know.
Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah,
like, I mean, I think that those are all the best bands in reality, right? And it's
sure, yeah, of course.
If it's a mundane response, it's kind of like, but if you're like, oh fuck, I love this, or like, fuck that, that's not my.
Oh, yeah, man, these guys suck.
Yeah, like.
What's all the noise? What's the feedback, man? Feedback sucks. All the songs sound the same. Like, good, fuck you, then. You know, we don't care. We don't care.
And that's honestly what's gotten you all the way here, is committing to yourselves and what you are and your sound, and that's what brought you to all these places. It brought you all the way around the world touring, right?
Around the world, yeah,
definitely.
And we're planning on touring that much again as soon as all this is over. We get the new album out, and we're gonna probably tour the whole year if possible.
That's great. That's great fucking news.
And we'll be back to Saint Vitus, hopefully, for sure.
Fuck yeah, man. We're gonna sort that out.
We can sort it out
for sure. We got 1 minute remaining. Mike, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out, hanging out with us, man. This has been fucking great. Thanks to everybody who's been supporting Saint Vitus. Obviously, keep fucking checking out Eyehategod and stuff like that.
Yes.
To get into a studio as soon as humanly fucking possible.
I'm gonna do it, man. I'm doing it. Yeah.
And we'll figure that out. So, Mike, thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Thank you, and everybody at Saint Vitus. Thanks to everybody that watched this tonight, and everybody stay safe, man.
Definitely, man. Take care of yourself, Mike.
Yeah, take care, man.
Later on.
Later.